Find product links below and hundreds more videos on my channel.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So my name is Nitsan, I'm a filmmaker and photographer here in London, and if you haven't seen my work then do check that out below. Now, I got this new float head. I saw it in China on eBay for around about half the price of what most of these sort of decent lower end float heads go for, and so that's around £50 sort of price point. And I thought, hey, let's try this out, because I was looking for a flat mount float head to go on top of a slider so that I wouldn't have to use adapters for a ball mount. So that tripod you're seeing right there, that is the fancier. That has a fantastic head, but it doesn't mount very easily to a slider. So I got this a little bit before Veravon released a version of that fancier head, which is basically a rebranding with a flat mount. So they took the tripod, put a flat mount on it, put their own name on it, and that's pretty awesome. I've ordered it, I'll review that soon. So meanwhile, this has some really awesome features and some really unique things that make it a really great buy. Now it's not quite as good as a fluid head as the fancier. That's the fancier FC02H head, and that is a really great fluid head, better than most. And so this is around about the same as something like Manfrotto lower end ones like the 701 or the Weifeng 717, so it's very good for its price, especially considering it's about half the price of those other ones. So that's great. What's really great about this is that for the same price as the, you may have seen me talk about this, I'll have a link to the video below, the Pro Aim head that goes underneath the slider in order to be able to tilt the slider. This is at the same price point, but it's better. It's sturdier, easier to use, it's a fluid head at the same time, so it's multi-purpose. It connects better to the slider, connects better to the tripod and the slider, and it just doesn't have issues like there's loads of issues with the that tilt head, that slider tilt head from Pro Aim. This doesn't have any of those issues. It's much sturdier, works much better, much easier. Didn't have to DIY anything, it just worked. And this held up a 1 meter Canova slider when it was this way. It was very easy to connect the quick release plate to it, but to get a really good grip I had to use both screws that came with the quick release plate, but it was easy to do. There's 2 mounting connections on the slider, so very easy to connect both the screws that came with it. And once I've done that, put it on here like that, I tested it with 3 kilograms of weight at the end of the slider, and it almost had no bend, and it was really pretty damn great for the price. 3.2 kilograms made it move out of position. So and I did have to lock it down as tight as I could with just my fingers, and I suppose you could lock it down tighter with like tools, but I don't know at what point it'll break. It does feel very sturdy. However, I mean, it does have a it's slightly more plasticky than you'd expect to get on, and the main head is metal, but just the knobs are a little bit plasticky, but they still seem to hold up pretty well. And now pan and tilt, like I said, pretty smooth, pretty comparable to other stuff with its price range, just not as good as the fancier. So this can sort of have drag control, not completely perfect. Something I've spoken about before is the bite point, which is when you've this will happen especially when you've tried to add drag using the drag control adjustment on most tripod heads. At the start of the move, you'll have a bit of a bump, a bit of a sort of too fast of a start, and so that's what I call the bite point. I'm not actually sure if that's the actual term for it, but I've been using that for a while. My friend Stafford there, he was the one who introduced me to the term, and so this isn't ideal when you try and lock it down, so again, not as good as the fancier. The fancier is better at controlling and reducing shake coming from your hand. So with the fancier, you almost don't have to think about it. With this, you do have to be careful not to bring in shake from your hand to the camera, but that's only because it's looser than it doesn't shake around. It's not unstable, but it's just less friction, and less friction means that you'd get more unwanted movements coming from your hand. So pretty alright, can lock down pretty okay-ish for the pan. And yeah. Now, another thing that's very important is counterbalance. Now, counterbalance is intended so that when you bring the tripod to aiming, let's say, downwards, now that you've got more weight here, and that means that this is obviously the gravity is going to try and pull this down. And so there's a spring in here which pushes it upwards. So the spring here is stronger than on the fancier, which means it's too strong to be used with just a camera like I am here. A little bit too strong. I've actually had to add an electronic viewfinder to that just to add a bit of weight. So it can work okay. Just a little bit less weight works better. And the fact that the fancier can disengage, you can sort of just loosen that counterbalance, means that it's easier to balance the camera so that it's centered onto the tripod, because you just disengage that counterbalance and then balance the camera, sort of move it back and forth until it's at the right point. It's easier to do on the fancier, and generally the fancier just works a little better, the counterbalance is a little bit better, and this is still pretty damn decent, but like I said, it is a little bit too strong, so it's a little bit more ideal if you're using rails and stuff and lots of accessories, maybe a cage and a rig and stuff like that. I'll possibly post some info below about what weight this would be ideal for. I haven't tested that fully yet. Now, so basically, it's very good. Has a bubble level, which is nice. Pretty all right. Has a decent panhandle, which could extend. However, it doesn't lock down fully. And I know this from using the fancier and some other heads. If it spins, it's not good, especially when using it with a slider. And sometimes I want to be able to sort of put that sort of sideways pressure on it in order to turn the head. And I know that from experience, I sometimes want to do that. That may just be a personal thing, but the fact that this spins would annoy the crap out of me. Whereas with the fancier, if it spins, I sort of lock it down really nice and tight and it doesn't spin anymore. Whereas with this, I couldn't lock it down that tight. No matter how tight I lock it, it'll spin. So just a very minor annoyance. And so overall, this is pretty damn good. It's got a pretty good quick release system on here. Holds the camera well, holds the tripod well. So pretty good system. Doesn't slide off the tripod. And overall, very good for the price and worth buying. Especially if you want to use this under a slider. And if you want to use something above a slider, have a look at the Veravon. I'll have the review about that soon. If you want a bowl mount, get the fancier. It does cost you a little more, but well worth the price. And yeah, and if you want something for £50, this is absolutely fantastic. I don't know of anything better at this price range. So hope you found that helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys.